Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. Today we're recapping Week 14, the Titans versus the Raiders. This was a fun one. Final score, Titans 42, Raiders 21. Now this game was a lot closer than it seemed, at least at halftime. It was 21-21 going into it, and from there the Titans just dominated the second half. I'm going to start with the Raiders side of the ball, looking at the fantasy angle for this. Derek Carr, 25 of 34 attempts, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, also 2 carries on the ground and 17 yards. He looked to be in control of this game in the first half, and then once they got to the second half, they just could not manage to get the ball over like the 50-yard mark. They kept stalling out right around midfield, and it just never went anywhere. And for the running game, we found out late in the day that Josh Jacobs was in fact not going to play. We hadn't really received clarity up to that point. It looked like he was going to play earlier in the day, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere we get a news update that he's not going to, and that DeAndre Washington is going to start in his stead. So if you grab DeAndre Washington and you started him, you had yourself a good day. He had 14 carries on the ground for 53 yards and a touchdown, and also had 6 receptions on 7 targets for 43 yards. So you'll definitely take that from a running back that was not expected to do anything until Jacobs was out. If Jacobs is out again next week, Washington becomes a very interesting waiver wire pickup this week. Jalen Richard also had some work, but not nearly as much as Washington. He had 7 carries for 28 yards, 2 receptions on 3 targets for 18 yards. Not really anything going on in the receiver category. Tyrell Williams only had 3 catches on 4 targets for 35 yards, and then there was a big bomb to Rico Gafford, who caught just 1 pass on 1 target, but it was 49 yards and a touchdown. No one's really looking at him from a fantasy perspective, and we're probably not going to be picking him up either. Not really too much more from the receivers. Darren Waller had an okay game, 6 receptions on 6 targets for 73 yards, but he did have a fumble that ended up turning into a recovery and a touchdown for Tennessee to kind of seal this game away. So that was disappointing. Darren Waller had also caught a pass and almost got into the end zone, got it down to the 1-yard line, and then that's led to the touchdown for Foster Moreau, who nobody started, but he had 3 targets and 3 catches for 14 yards and that 1 touchdown for 1 yard. So Darren Waller could have had a much better game had he made it to the end zone there, but you'll take what you get in the tight end landscape. Looking at the Titans side of the ball, Ryan Tannehill, my start of the week, he had 21 completions on 27 attempts for 391 yards. He had 3 touchdowns and 1 interception, also 4 carries on the ground for 19 yards. Just a phenomenal day for Tannehill. The interception that he threw was just a one that got tipped up at the line and picked off, and then he actually chased the defender down and made the tackle himself. It was a pretty awesome play to watch, and then he just played angrily for the rest of the game. Another player who plays very angrily is Derrick Henry. He had 18 carries in this game for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. He also had a reception for 6 yards, but again, Derrick Henry just week in, week out continues to make the opposing defenders just scared to touch him. And then part of the reason that helped Tannehill have a great game was A.J. Brown had a phenomenal game. He had 1 carry for 13 yards, but 5 receptions on 7 targets for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of those was a 91-yard play in which Tannehill basically backed up to his own end zone, threw it about halfway down the field. A.J. Brown shook off a defender and ran the rest of the way. It was pretty significant catch, pretty awesome to watch. A.J. Brown, another starter this week that we recommended, and he came through. No one else really did much. Tajaé Sharpe had 4 receptions on 4 targets for 25 yards. Corey Davis, 2 receptions on 4 targets for 34 yards. A.J. Brown did leave the game briefly for an ankle injury, but it didn't seem significant. I believe he actually came back into the game after leaving for a brief moment. So A.J. Brown is definitely someone, if he is still on the waiver wire, you can't leave him out there. because he's capable of having these kind of games, especially if Humphries continues to miss. A.J. Brown will be pretty pivotal going forward for the Titans. On the tight end side of the ball, if you started Jonnu Smith, you were rewarded. He had 3 catches on 4 targets for 29 yards and a touchdown. Again, anytime you get a touchdown from a tight end, you're going to be pretty happy about that. But overall, this is just another game where the Titans are continuing to show their dominance with Tannehill and Derrick Henry. Next week they play the Texans, which now becomes a AFC South showdown in Houston. I'm very excited for this game. I think this is going to be one of the better games of the week. We'll get more into that for the preview. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please feel free to like and subscribe for more content all season long and into the off season. We'll see you in the next one.